You destroy the love you crave the most. And the worst part is, you do it without even realizing it. Tonight, we uncover the hidden wound that makes you push away everyone who tries to get close. There is a moment in every relationship when everything changes. It is not the moment you fall in love. It is not the first kiss or the first argument. It is the moment when someone sees you, truly sees you, and instead of feeling joy, you feel terror. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and somewhere deep inside, a voice whispers that you do not deserve this, that they will leave eventually, that it is only a matter of time before they discover who you really are and walk away. So you do something strange, something that makes no logical sense. You push them away first. You create distance. You start fights over nothing. You become cold, distant, unavailable. You sabotage the very thing you have been searching for your entire life. And when they finally leave, exhausted and confused, you tell yourself you knew it would happen. You tell yourself you were right all along. But were you? Or did you write the ending before the story even had a chance to unfold? This pattern has a name. Psychologists call it the fear of intimacy. But that clinical term does not capture the depth of the pain it causes. It does not describe the sleepless nights wondering why you cannot let anyone in. It does not explain the hollow feeling of watching another relationship crumble because of walls you built but cannot see. The fear of intimacy is not really about intimacy at all. It is about vulnerability. It is about the terrifying possibility that if someone truly knows you, they will reject you. And that rejection would confirm the deepest fear you carry, the fear that you are fundamentally unlovable. But here's what makes this fear so insidious. It does not feel like fear. It feels like wisdom. It feels like self-protection. It feels like you're being smart, being careful, learning from past mistakes. When you pull away from someone who loves you, your brain tells you that you are avoiding pain. But in reality, you are guaranteeing it. You are choosing the certain pain of loneliness over the uncertain risk of love. And the tragedy is that you may never realize you're making this choice at all. The roots of this pattern go deep. They reach back to your earliest experiences of love and attachment. When you were an infant, completely dependent on your caregivers, you learned fundamental lessons about whether the world was safe and whether you were worthy of care. If your caregivers were consistent, responsive, and nurturing, you developed what psychologists call secure attachment. You learned that people could be trusted, that your needs mattered, and that love was something you deserved. But if your caregivers were inconsistent, neglectful, or emotionally unavailable, you learned very different lessons. You learned that depending on others was dangerous. You learned that showing your needs led to disappointment. You learned that the people who were supposed to love you could not be counted on. And so you adapted. You built walls. You learned to need no one. You became fiercely independent, not because independence felt good, but because dependence felt terrifying. Dr. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, spent decades studying how these early experiences shape our adult relationships. He discovered that the patterns we develop in infancy follow us throughout our lives, influencing every relationship we form. Children who experienced inconsistent care often develop what Bowlby called avoidant attachment. They learn to suppress their need for closeness because that need was never reliably met. As adults, they may desperately want connection, but the moment someone gets too close, alarm bells start ringing. Their nervous system, trained by years of disappointment, interprets intimacy as danger. And so they withdraw, not because they do not care, but because caring feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. There's another pattern that emerges from early wounds. Some children, instead of becoming avoidant, become anxiously attached. They cling desperately to any sign of love, terrified of abandonment. They need constant reassurance that they are loved, and even small moments of distance feel like rejection. These two patterns often find each other in adult relationships, creating a painful dance. The anxious partner pursues, seeking closeness and validation. The avoidant partner retreats, overwhelmed by the intensity. The more one pursues, the more the other withdraws. And both end up feeling alone, misunderstood, and convinced that love simply does not work for them. But there is an even more painful pattern. It is called disorganized attachment, and it combines the worst elements of both anxiety and avoidance. People with this attachment style desperately crave intimacy, but are simultaneously terrified of it. They approach and withdraw in unpredictable ways, leaving their partners confused and exhausted. This pattern typically develops when a child's caregiver was both a source of comfort and a source of fear. When the person who is supposed to protect you is also the person who hurts you, your developing brain cannot make sense of the contradiction. You learn that love itself is dangerous, that the closer you get to someone, the more likely they are to wound you. And so you spend your adult life caught in an impossible bind, wanting love, but unable to trust it, reaching out and then pushing away, never able to find solid ground. The most heartbreaking aspect of these patterns is how invisible they are to the people living them. When you grew up learning that love was conditional, unreliable, or dangerous, those lessons became the lens through which you see all relationships. You do not experience your fear of intimacy as fear. You experience it as reality. You genuinely believe that people cannot be trusted, that getting close leads to pain, that independence is the only safe option. You may even pride yourself on your self-sufficiency, your ability to need no one. But underneath that pride is a wound that never healed, a child who learned that their needs did not matter and decided to stop having them. Consider Sarah. She is a successful professional in her late 30s. She has accomplished everything she set out to do in her career. But her personal life tells a different story. She has had a series of relationships, each following the same pattern. In the beginning, everything is wonderful. She feels connected, excited, hopeful. But as the relationship deepens, as her partner begins to see past her carefully constructed facade, something shifts. She starts noticing flaws she did not see before. She becomes critical, distant. She picks fights about trivial things. She creates reasons to be angry, to pull away. And eventually, the relationship ends. Each time, she tells herself it was not the right person. She tells herself she just has high standards. But deep down, she knows the truth. She is the common denominator in all her failed relationships. And she has no idea why she keeps destroying the very thing she wants. Sarah's story is not unique. Millions of people around the world are caught in the same pattern, pushing away love while desperately wanting it. They're not bad people. They're not commitment-phobic or emotionally stunted. They are wounded. They are protecting themselves from pain in the only way they know how. But protection has become a prison. The walls they built to keep out hurt are now keeping out love as well. The psychologist Robert Firestone has spent his career studying what he calls the fantasy bond, a concept that helps explain why we sabotage love. According to Firestone, many of us form connections based not on real intimacy, but on an illusion of connection that protects us from vulnerability. We go through the motions of a relationship without ever truly letting our guard down. We maintain emotional distance while appearing close. We substitute routine for real connection. And when someone threatens to break through our defenses, when they offer us genuine intimacy, we panic. We experience what Firestone calls the fear of being seen. Because being truly seen means being vulnerable. And vulnerability to a wounded heart feels like death. There is a cruel irony at the heart of this pattern. The very behaviors we use to protect ourselves from pain are the ones that guarantee we will experience it. When we push someone away because we fear they will leave, we ensure that they do leave. When we refuse to open up because we fear rejection, we create the very distance that leads to rejection. We become architects of our own loneliness, building walls that keep out both pain and joy. And because we never take the risk of true intimacy, we never get to experience the reward. We live in a gray zone of half connections and almost relationships, always holding something back, never fully present, never fully alive. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard wrote about the dizziness of freedom, the anxiety that comes from realizing we are responsible for our own lives. This anxiety is amplified in relationships. When we love someone, we give them the power to hurt us. We make ourselves vulnerable in a way that feels almost unbearable. And for those of us who learned early that vulnerability leads to pain, this feels like stepping off a cliff. So we cling to control. We try to manage our emotions, to protect ourselves from getting too attached. We tell ourselves we're being smart, being careful. But Kierkegaard would say we are running from the very thing that makes life meaningful. We are choosing safety over significance, security over love. And in doing so, we miss the chance to truly live. The neuroscience of attachment helps explain why these patterns are so hard to break. When we experience early relational trauma, our brains develop neural pathways that prime us for threat detection. We become hypervigilant, always scanning for signs of danger, always ready to protect ourselves. These pathways become so ingrained that they operate below conscious awareness. We do not decide to push people away. Our nervous system makes that decision for us, flooding us with stress hormones the moment intimacy feels threatening. Breaking these patterns requires more than willpower. It requires rewiring the brain itself, creating new neural pathways that can tolerate closeness without panic. The good news is that the brain is plastic. It can change. The attachment patterns we developed in childhood are not permanent sentences. They are learned responses, and what is learned can be unlearned. But this process requires something most of us resist: vulnerability. We have to be willing to feel the fear and stay present anyway. We have to let someone see us, really see us, even when every instinct screams to run. We have to challenge the voices in our head that tell us we are unworthy of love. And we have to do this over and over, each time building a little more tolerance for intimacy, each time proving to our wounded inner child that closeness does not have to mean pain. Therapy can be transformative for people struggling with these patterns. A skilled therapist provides what is called a corrective emotional experience, a relationship in which old wounds can be healed through new experiences of consistent, trustworthy care. In therapy, you can explore the origins of your fear without judgment. You can understand the logic of your defenses while also recognizing their costs. You can learn to identify the moments when you start to withdraw and choose a different response. And over time, you can develop what therapists call earned secure attachment, a stable foundation for relationships that was not given to you in childhood, but that you have built for yourself. But therapy is not the only path to healing. Awareness itself is powerful. Simply understanding that you have a pattern of pushing people away can begin to loosen its grip. When you feel the urge to withdraw, you can pause and ask yourself what you're really afraid of. When you notice yourself becoming critical or picking fights, you can recognize these behaviors as defenses rather than justified responses. When someone offers you love and your first instinct is to run, you can stay. Not because it feels comfortable, but because you know that comfort is not the goal. Growth is. The journey from fear to love is not linear. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when old patterns reassert themselves with frightening force. There will be times when you hurt people you care about because your defenses move faster than your awareness. But each time you catch yourself, each time you choose connection over protection, you are rewiring your brain. You are teaching yourself a new way of being in relationships. You are proving to yourself that love does not have to mean loss. Perhaps the most important realization is this: the fear of intimacy is actually a fear of yourself. It is a fear that if someone truly knows you, they will confirm what you have always suspected, that you are flawed, broken, unworthy of love. But this belief is a lie. It is a story you created as a child to make sense of experiences that did not make sense. It is not the truth of who you are. You are worthy of love, not because you have to earn it, not because you have to be perfect, but simply because you exist. And the people who truly love you are not waiting for you to fail. They are waiting for you to let them in. Tonight, as you lie in the dark, I want you to consider something. What would your life look like if you stopped running from love? What relationships will be possible if you let someone truly see you? What would it feel like to trust, really trust another person with your heart? The fear will not disappear overnight. The walls will not crumble in a moment. But every journey begins with a single step. And the first step is acknowledging that you have been building prisons, not fortresses. That your independence is not strength but survival. That the love you've been pushing away is the very thing that could heal you. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote that for one human being to love another is perhaps the most difficult of all our tasks. He was right. Love requires courage that few other endeavors demand. It asks us to stand naked before another person, to show them our wounds and our weaknesses, to trust them with the most fragile parts of ourselves. It is no wonder we resist. It is no wonder we build walls. But the alternative, a life lived behind defenses, a life of almost connections and near misses, is not really living at all. It is surviving. And you deserve more than survival. You deserve to be known. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to let someone in. The walls you built kept you safe when you needed safety. They were necessary. They were wise. But that time has passed. You're no longer the child who could not protect themselves. You are an adult with the power to choose. And you can choose, right now, to begin the slow work of dismantling your defenses. Not all at once, not recklessly, but deliberately, courageously, one brick at a time. If this video made you think about your own patterns in relationships, take a moment to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from, your city, and share one thing you learned about yourself tonight. Because healing happens in community, and you're not alone in this journey.